What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K back with another Cloud Gamer Chronicles pilot episode. This is going to be one made for the public, and this is talking about our Outriders Stadia's launch impressions. You may have seen me in particular be very vocal about my experience with Stadia on social media, whether it be Twitter, whether it be via videos. I've been up and down, pretty much down for the most part, about this version of Outriders. Did a couple of YouTube videos, went on a couple of rants, then had some stuff on Twitter. So what I want to do is capsulize my experience right now and talk to you about what my thoughts are, and then show you guys a little something that may work for you as we described on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Because I know there's a lot of people that also want to provide their own takes on what may or what may not work. So we're just going to show you what worked for us and go from there. With that being said, let me just start off and say that initially with this port, it looked a little rough. If you follow our content via the Stadia Dosage News membership program, and the Stadia Dosage News member community, you would have seen my first look where at launch we were like, this doesn't have the bells and whistles visually that we thought. There were performance concerns, but we had already read that there were performance concerns across the board. So we weren't too worried with that. It kind of reminded us of the launch of Cyberpunk, where we felt like we didn't have the best port there at first, but then over time that issue started to relinquish itself. This was a little different though. So there's two parts. So I'm going to show you in some of the experience that I had prior to the first takedown, and then at post the first takedown. Prior to the first takedown, it was a playable experience. It did have hiccups. Visually wasn't impressive, but again, it wasn't the end of the world. It was sharp enough, but with some hiccups in the stutter department. We discovered, however, that by turning off G-Sync at that time, it made significant improvements of the stuttering. We didn't have any once we did that, particularly when we were in the city. That was spectacular because everywhere you play, you've seen my PC gameplay on the MM2K channel. Even when I was in the city on PC, I experienced stutters. So not experiencing stutters just by simply turning off G-Sync at that time was fantastic. And I was getting I wouldn't say a flat 60, but it was definitely above 30, anywhere between the 40 and 50 department. It was definitely playable. Then the game went down. And then once the game went down, it came back up, and it was uglier than before, and the performances were worse than before. We found out that unlocking G-Sync did make some improvements, but then when you got in the battle, it was just, it really didn't make much of a difference as it did prior. In addition to that, the visual mode was just unplayable. It's just unbearable. It was giving us headaches. I kind of went on a rant. Check out the video on Stadia Dosage News where I talk about, I had to even rename the video. So we did a video on Stadia Dosage News, and then we took the gameplay over to PC, and we talked about it on PC. So I want to show you chronologically what we did with our experience, and then tell you what may help and what our final thoughts are at launch. So, you know how we do. Let me show you something. All right. So, I don't know what in the world is this? Oh, okay. This is, that's supposed to be the web. Okay. That's the wrong display. Okay, this is the display we want to show y'all. All right, so this is our very first tweet prior to when they brought it down, when we said that the gameplay was bearable, it was okay, it was doable, and then when we originally tried the G-Sync solution, it worked for us tremendously. And this tweet was on April 1st, as you can see right here. This is April 1st when we did this tweet. And we said, for those having performance issues with Outriders on Stadia while playing on PC, turn off G-Sync if on. Once I did that, 90% of the issues, even in the city, went away. And if you watch our videos, if you watch our video, my first look, and you watch our video where we did the public premiere, in the public premiere video, at some point in time during that video, we do turn G-Sync off, and you can see us moving through the city with no problem, right? Shout out to the homie Raven Anime, big GeForce Now fan. He was with us every single video. Shout out to him, and he's a supporter of the platform. He was witness to it as well. But that was April 1st. Now, after the servers went down and the game came back up, I did 2 rants, and I wasn't happy, and I didn't come back to Twitter. I don't think. Well, no, I did come back to Twitter, and I said something to the effects of the homie Akash. I said, yeah, you know, it was fine, but now I don't know what the hell it was that I got up here. You know what I'm saying? This is our first tweet after that. And as you can see, this is now April 2nd. So after the whole whoop-de-doo with April 1st, the up and down roller coaster ride, we got up in the morning, we said, interesting findings already, because we tried to get back up. We said, all right, let's dive back into this, see how much this has improved. We said, interesting findings already after we dive back into this. I'll report back with them all. However, first and foremost, we need Square Enix and People Can Fly to add a toggle to the motion blur option for Outriders for Google Stadia. Turning this off on PC does wonders for performance. I bet it would here. So, what do I mean by that? Shout out to Eddie Player One. Eddie Player One was with us during our PC gameplay the night prior on April 1st when I was going on my rant. And he said, oh, Moss, turn off motion blur. Because I was experiencing stutters on PC on my 3070 card. Turned it off, worked like a gem. So I got up the following morning and I said, why isn't there, because the options on Stadia are embarrassing when it comes to the display options. They're horrid. So when we got up, I was thinking to myself, why in the hell doesn't People Can Fly have a motion blur option? I bet you the overwhelming majority of these performance issues would go away if you could toggle the motion blur option. And that's why we said turning this off on PC does wonders for performance. I bet it would here. Saying if they did have it on Stadia, we bet it would do better as well. Our next tweet. Bad news and good news. We got to keep it jiggy. We got to keep it 100. Bad news and good news. Bad news. Now this is post them bringing it back up on April 1st, where the performance and everything took a nosedive. It was completely different. Bad news. I personally cannot confirm much improvement on Outriders for Stadia, even on CCU. Shout out to the homie Bippity Bop. Bippity Bop was making a recommendation to try it on CCU. A lot of people, shout out to Clive Linden and a lot of other people, I think Squid did as well. They said, yes, I am noticing significant performance improvements on CCU. I could not confirm that. All right. That's why I said good news, plenty others have. Keep in mind, same thing happened with Cyberpunk. I was of the last to see improvements. So maybe it's server side. We'll see. I don't know. I remember, shout out to the homie Generation Stadia. He was in one of my streams and I was sitting there talking about the troubles that I had with Cyberpunk while everybody else was like, oh no, this is great. This is great. And me and him was rapping live during my stream. And he's like, yo, bro, I'm experiencing the same thing you are. It's not so great with me. And I said, yeah, it is. But everybody else is saying, I'm not going to doubt their experience. I'm just not having it. So shout out to Bippity Bop, Clive, and everybody else who's recommending try on CCU. It may work for you, it may not. I don't want to shoot that down, okay? And I think it's important that we keep that in mind, that our own, this is cloud gaming, and it can be very erratic, and it can change case to case when you're dealing with these issues. Not one situation is going to be across the board. Generally with Stadia, there is a standard to where things work well, but you could be running into an issue and I'm not, and vice versa. So we got to keep that in mind before we speak in absolutes on what works and what doesn't work. And that's me included. That's me included where I haven't been clear. That's why we're clearing everything up now. All right. So shout out to them for giving that recommendation, because it could work for some people, and it seemed like it did work for some people. It didn't work for me at this time, and I couldn't recommend it. So we went back to the drawing board. So playing further and giving it more thought, I said to myself, final tweet. Until major update seen, 3 big things needed globally ASAP for Google Stadia port. Hopefully Square Enix and People Can Fly can provide. My suggestions: a resolution scale, and I meant or a field of view scale, a motion blur toggle, and also I feel like for the Stadia version, the draw distance pixelation is trash. Video forthcoming, which is this video. Now on to Ease 8, which I didn't get to yet. I was preoccupied with some family stuff, but I'm gonna still get to Ease 8. Now, in contrast, I did try Outriders on GFN. And at first I was like, oh, this is just as bad, if not worse, on GFN. But see, GFN gives you way more options than what Stadia gets. And that's always the case. Doesn't always mean that the GFN version is better. But in this case, because my homie Eddie Player One helped me out with the motion blur, I said the same option's gonna be here. Let me try that. And lo and behold, when I turn off the motion blur, and shout out to Gamer TV too. I definitely, because he's the one that told me to change the resolution scale down to 85, but I changed it to 80 on PC. So I did the same thing on GFN. So I changed the graphics to high graphics. I changed the resolution scale down to 80. I turned DLSS to quality mode. I turned VSync on, and I turned motion blur off. And wow, man, when I was playing on GFN on my PC, it was fantastic. Now, I took it down to my dongle, which normally gives me trouble, with stuttering. And I'm here to tell you that I didn't get any trouble that I normally get with stuttering. The performance was great. The only problem that I got, and I was playing this on my Fire TV Cube, was with lag. I got some lag. However, I was using the Amazon controller, my Luna controller, via Bluetooth. That was giving me lag. When I switched to my PlayStation, my DS4 controller, no problems. The only issue is that you can't press the start button. So if you want to get out of the game, well, if you want to fix these settings, you got to fix these settings while you're in the lobby. Once you get out of the lobby, you're not going to be able to fix these settings. So keep that in mind. Also, you're not going to be able to exit out of the game. You're just going to have to boot out by just, going back home on the Chromecast. On the Fire TV. If you have GFN loaded on your Chromecast TV, you ain't got to worry about it. And I haven't played it yet because I haven't been able to hardwire GFN on my Google TV yet. So, and I don't think that's fair. So I'm gonna wait till I can hardwire it to try it there. But I do have my Fire TV Cube hardwired. I gave it a shot. Once I put these settings in, it was high. The only difference that I had to do on the Fire TV Cube was the Fire TV Cube automatically put it on high medium settings, which is fantastic. And it worked like a dream. So that's where I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be playing it on PC when I'm up here in the lab, and when I'm downstairs, I'm going to be playing it via GFN until they fix it on Stadia. So fantastic. So I wanted to put everything in context because I've been shooting out a lot of different things. I've said some things on April 1st opposed to what I said on April 2nd. And if you were observing or came across any of this later after the fact, this is April 3rd that we're recording this, you may be confused. To make sure that you're not confused on any of this, I wanted to put this all in a nice little bow. So here's another thing that I want to do too. I know that there's questions about what G-Sync can do by turning it off on your PC if you're playing it and you're trying to get better performance out of Outriders. So I want to firsthand show you what I'm experiencing and then maybe what you'll experience. Granted, like I've said in the video, you got to go check out my other videos because I can't replicate this anymore because the game is performing completely different. You got to go to my first public video on on Stadia Dosage News. Then you got to go to Stadia Dosage Streams. When you compare the two videos where I'm playing it with the G-Sync on, and then by the time I get to Stadia Dosage Streams, and at some point in that video, I can't remember when, I turn it off, you'll notice the difference in performance. I can't replicate that, again, because this version isn't performing that way anymore. But I can show you that there's still a difference that you can experience that deals with jutters. Here's what it's going to do. It's going to reduce jutters, not as much as it did before, but it's going to make the game significantly uglier. So it all depends on what you want. So if you're hell bent on playing it on Stadia at the moment, it'll give you some results. It's a trade-off. So let's get into the game. Let's boot up. Now I'm going to show you this firefight that I'm about to get in. So we're going to get into this firefight. I'm in the middle of a firefight now doing a side mission. We're going to let the assets load up. This is high frame rate mode. I want to show you guys. So let me go into the pause menu. This is high frame rate mode. I'm going to go to display. And man, these this is an embarrassment. Like, they should have at least had the display options that Cyberpunk had. But I'm on high frame rate mode and I put my brightness up to 1.1. I felt like Square Enix or People Can Fly was trying to hide a lot of the pixelation that you're getting and the shadow, and the ghosting rather that you were getting by making things so damn dark. So either 1.1 or 1.2 is where I like to put the brightness. I mean, you're gonna see a little bit more pixelation, but at least you can see, damn it. Especially someone like me who's playing Pyro and I'm using the sniper rifle a lot. So here goes. So as you can see, look at those stutters, right? So as you can see, that look at those pauses in gameplay. Let me get out of here. So I'm gonna clear this area out. I'm gonna show you all the little stutters and look at this. Just walking around, I'm just getting a bunch of stutters. Now I'm gonna go over here. Okay, so let's do this. So you saw the stutters and stuff that I was getting here. I'm gonna start this firefight a little bit. I'm gonna walk in here in the middle of it so you can see all this. Look at all this that's going on right here, right? So let me get out of here real quick before I die. And then I'm gonna do this. Oh no, I can't do it right now because this guy's coming. Take his energy. All right. All right. So now I want to show y'all this. You see that? Those are my monitors. I have 3 monitors. I have 2 1440p monitors and a 4K monitor. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn G-Sync off. Before I turn G-Sync off, I do want to show y'all something though. I'm going to aim down the barrels. with my sniper rifle. You see all that stuttering and stuff? And it's particularly that part where I was just in. Look at that stuttering I was going through with the going down the sniper rifle. So now let's go back here. I'm gonna turn G-Sync off. And you might see some blinking or whatever. I'm not sure how this is gonna record, but I want y'all to take a look after I turn G-Sync off at the slight performance improvement. And let's do it. Okay, now G-Sync is off. Now we're going to switch back to the game, and you're going to see how noticeably more ugly the game is. The game is more noticeably ugly. Look at now when I'm going down this, it looks like peas porridge in the pot. But I'm gonna move around now. And look, as I move around now, there's not the stutters that I had before. You see that? Notice that? Now there's still some there. Again, it's not as significant as it was before It's not as significant as it was before. You'll see some as I get to this area by the fire, because you know light always causes stutters. But notice how, remember when I did the light effect before, it was pausing? So the improvements are slight, again, because I'm assuming that there's less visual processing going on, because look how uglier it is. I'm gonna go by this light now. And notice how when I went by the light, it didn't stutter that much. So there is some improvement. There is definitely some improvement, but it's coming at a severe loss of fidelity. That is ugly. Look at that. That's ugly as hell. Can I get some more energy? Woo, that's ugly. That's an ugly baby. And I'm not getting the jutters and stuff like that when I try to go into my scope. It just doesn't look that appealing, that's all. But the gameplay has some significant more smooth activity on it. Right? Do a little bit more. Okay. We got a little judder there, but again, it's significantly less than what we experienced before. And again, you can see it. Hopefully you guys can see it in the display, because I had to do a display setting. I didn't do a game setting, but you can see even in my movements, it's smoother. The movement is smoother, not the fidelity. The fidelity is trash. Not that the fidelity was great before, but it's significantly uglier now. But I'm getting halfway decent movement without stutters that completely induce headaches. Now, when I came up there, it stuttered a little bit, but again, significantly better. Let me use my power. See how I can use my power, no stuttering using my power, unlike what it did before. All right. Now, here's something else that I discovered. I'm not sure if it's going to work here. So let me go down a little bit. We'll see. It might work this time. So as you can see, movement is smooth, smoother. I don't want to say smooth. Movement is smoother. I'm going to come down here. Now, check this out. I am going to turn G-Sync back on. I want y'all to notice what happens. And I just noticed this trying to replicate this in the video. So now I'm going to turn G-Sync back on. So bear with me, turning it back on. Okay, now let's go back to the game. When you turn it on, it's still ugly. It's slightly looking better. But then look, the performance is okay to a degree again. It's not as bad as it was. And some of the visuals came back. So maybe what it was is if you load this game up with G-Sync on, you're going to know you're going to induce something that causes serious or causes an issue with performance. So if you're loading it up on a browser, you might want to consider turning G-Sync off after you load the game, then possibly turning it back on, because now the performance is okay. And I'm gonna finish this part. We're gonna skip past that part. And let's see here. And then we're just gonna warp back. So yeah, so that's the video. Overall, I want to say that overall, I want to say that initially this game started off okay. It started off to a point to where it was playable, not where we wanted it to be at, but we know that for the most part, Stadia games start off a little bit janky, right? And that's okay because they always tend to get better if they start off janky. Like even Division 2. When Division 2 launched, y'all remember my Division 2 video? And there was all types of problems. And y'all remember, I went off. I went off for 2 hours. And then finally they fixed it. And then I started playing it and I looked at the game and I was like, yo, this looks better than Doom Eternal that was out at the time. I was like, no, it can't be. Come to find out it was at a higher resolution. And it definitely did look better. With that being said, we're used to Stadia games getting better, progressively better, like within the day if they launch kind of janky or whatever. There are exceptions to the rule like Madden and stuff like that just launch fantastic. However, we were accepting of that, and it was in a fair state. It was in a fair state when it launched. But after they took it down and brought it back up, it's been in a state that for many just isn't bearable. A lot of that is due to the instability of the game altogether. There's been a bunch of issues in the game. But see, the problem with the Stadia version is unlike those other versions, there's options and tweaks you can make that can alleviate those issues and make it a decent experience as long as the servers ain't down. That's not the case with the Stadia version, and that's why the Stadia version needs a little bit more TLC from Square Enix and People Can Fly, because what Stadia does is it leaves it up to the devs to do that tweaking opposed to you, which is fine, but the devs got to be willing to do the tweaking. And I just find it peculiar that Stadia and Square Enix is going on these world tours talking about how great it is that this game is on the platform, where maybe Square Enix, and when I say world tour, I mean they doing interviews and all this stuff, and it's great for getting recognition for the platform. But maybe Square Enix needs to add a little bit more effort than what they're adding now to giving that love and care to this version. Because a lot of this stuff is embarrassing, flat out. So I wanted to say that. Those are my thoughts. And right now, I can't recommend it. I've actually had to turn some people away from it, unfortunately, because I didn't want them to pay their $60 and not know when it was going to get back up. They need to get this back up. However, with that said, if you've already bought the game and you're like, I'm going to stick with it, I'm not turning it in like me, that's the state I'm in, then Try the different things that people are telling you to try. I don't want to be one of those people that tell you, oh no, this works or this doesn't work and all this other stuff. Like, it's different for each use case. So I want us to be very careful, like how I showed you guys in those tweets. It may work for you, it may not work for you. The G-Sync thing worked for me, it may not work for you. So, you know, those of us that put content out there, I know we want to give the best results for people, but let's be careful. Let's not speak in absolutes, and that's me included. So that's why I want to clarify anything I wasn't clear about in any of my other information that I've given out on social media, but to show you guys that to turn it off G-Sync did work for me, and it may work for you. And maybe the CCU does do better for you. It didn't do better for me, right? It all depends. So with that said, that's it from your boy. Thank you very much for watching this video. Cloud Gamer Chronicles can normally be spotted via the Stadia Dosage membership community. If you want to become a member, because we're in our pilot program, but we got a lot of content, and even when we go into our mainstream content out of the pilot program, a lot of this stuff, if not, well, the majority of the stuff is going to be behind our community membership program. In order to be part of our member community, hit that join button below. Hit that join button, join at any level, and you'll have access to the Cloud Gamer Chronicle content. With that said, that's it from your boy MM2K. Appreciate, love all of y'all. You have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.